Good morning and welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Minneapolis City Council. We're going to begin our meeting this morning. We have two groups that we would like to recognize this morning, and we do that sometimes before our council meeting, and people want to come up and take a picture, so we want to move through this very, very smoothly if we can. The first group is a group of French artists who are here to join us as a part of an artistic exchange that we started last year with the glass artists in France. And why don't half people come over this way so we get in the picture. We had a group of Minneapolis artists that went to France to exhibit in Honfleur at the art exhibit there, and this year they sent a group of artists back to Minneapolis, and they have been housed at a number of our beautiful glass blowing facilities, glass making facilities that exist in our city, and have been able to work on their art here, which was a little bit of a stumbling block that we found when we sent people to France. You have to transport, costs, all that kind of thing. So this was a much more simple operation and very, very useful. So we're happy to have them here, and just want to recognize them. And they will be exhibiting at the Stone Arch Art Festival this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And we'll have their exhibits by the Pillsbury A Mill, so both inside and outside, and you'll be able to find them because we'll have American flags and French flags in front of their exhibits. So we really welcome them, and if someone would like to say just a few words. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. We are, sorry, it's emotion. We are very happy to be here. We were welcomed in a great manner. All Glass Studio welcomed us and helped us a lot. And so we have a small group of French artists from different parts of France, from Nancy, the east of France, from Paris, from Normandy, and small towns too. We have different specialties. We're glass blowers, flame makers. We have an international artist, glass blower. We have a best worker in eyeglass in France. And fuse glass and clay, different things. We would like to say a special thank you. So Corinne is from Moret-sur-Loing, which is a small town in France, just close to Paris, and like Minneapolis, a town dedicated to arts. Would like to thank you and offer you a medal from the mayor, who said, wow, it's a great thing to go to the United States. So this is a medal and some candies made there. And this is documentation from Moret-sur-Loing. And our international glass artist offers you some candies from his region in the east of France. Yes, thank you. Michael. And we would like to thank a lot Michael Rainville, who helped us so much, and he will have a medal from the town. And thank you very much for everyone here.
Thank you so much. Do we want to take a picture?
Photo?
Yes.
Okay. Is someone going to take it? Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Photo time. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. The next group we would like to recognize is a group from the Red Lake Band of Chippewa. So if they'd come up and join us, that'd be great. Good morning. Good morning. Ms. Dolde, I think I'll have you introduce the chairman, and then we're going to speak about the project that they're here interested in.
Good morning. My name is Tony Stilley. I'm an ambassador for the Red Lake Nation, and we're very grateful to be here today in regard to this project. I'd like to introduce you to Red Lake Nation Tribal Chairman Daryl G. Siki Sr., Chairman Siki. And then Justin Bolio, Becky Landon, and then on my right is Brianna Beston. And I'll give the mic over to Chairman Siki.
Bonjour, ani nama kene ai ujibaman to nimbangi. Nogo minagishigat widoen jabang skuzaga ganing. Good morning, everybody. My name is Daryl Siki, Tribal Chairman for Red Lake Nation. It's a pleasure, and it's good to be here to visit and listen to the City Council meeting and to see all your people here for different initiatives that you're going to be addressing. And we have an exciting project we're doing here, and first time off-reservation project we ever done, Red Lake has ever done, and the Landon Group and the people behind the scenes that do all the work, Justin Bolio, Sam Strong, of course, Tony. This is exciting for Red Lake. 109 units, efficiency apartments for 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. And also we're gonna locate our wellness center, our embassy that's in Bloomington, Lake Street, and we're gonna move it all there. This will be great for our Anishinaabe people that live here. We have 3,500 to 4,000 members that live here in the metropolitan area. And that include, we have about 7,000 residencies also that's not enrolled in with our enrollment with our Red Lake tribe. So, but anyway, I like to have Justin. He's been working behind the scenes, and I want to give him credit for doing all the work for the project.
It's not what Justin did, it's a group effort. These guys do a lot of work, and we've worked with a lot of people. We realized that we needed some more apartments, or we needed some more living spaces for not just our people, but all the people down here. Minneapolis has a crisis in that sense. So this was aligning with our goals for what we have for our tribe, as well as the goals for the city too. So this is a good collaboration, and there's a lot of people that are gonna put this project together and make it work. So we just wanna say, Miigwech, thank you.
Yeah, Miigwech for the partnership with the City of Minneapolis and you, Mayor. And I met you before, and I'm glad to see you again. Aho.
Thank you. I just got promoted. Council President. But I just wanted, it's okay, I just really want to have people pay attention to it's item number 10 on the Community Development Regulatory Services agenda, and it is a 2017 Pipeline Affordable Housing Trust Fund project recommendation, and it's a recommendation for $2.7 million from the fund to complete, to work on this, and I'm going to try and pronounce this. Tony's helped me, but we'll see. Mino Bima Dize Win project. So I hope I didn't. All right. Okay. All right. The good life, that's what it means. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. And if we can, people kind of lean in and squinch in, we can get the council in there too. All right. Thank you very much. Oh, one more. All right. Thank you. Good to see you again. Thank you. Come on up. some on either side, so we get all in the picture. All right. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. All right. So, Mr. Cohen, are you an organized group or? Okay.
We like to think we are, but many people don't think so.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. All
But
right.
this is actually an organized event of the Minneapolis City Republican Party. On this occasion, to have the opportunity to come down to City Hall, we don't get that opportunity very often. Take a look at some of these seats here and hope that some of us may be occupying them someday, as we once did. And we appreciate the opportunity to be here with you and to have our picture taken. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Hi, and I just want to thank you. I want to thank our city council members for their service to our city. We are a minority group in Minneapolis as Republicans, but we are at least 20% of the voting public, and we do provide a lot of the taxes and the foundation to keep this city alive financially. So I want to thank all the citizens also here today for participating in their government, and we hope as Minneapolis Republicans, even though we're a minority, we hope to take a more active role than we have in the immediate past.
We're done. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Call this regularly scheduled meeting of Minneapolis City Council to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Fry. Here. Palmisano. Present. Gordon. Here. Kano. Here. Reich. Here. Bender. Here. Glidden. Here. Yang. Here. Johnson. Here. Quincy. Here. Warsami is absent. Goodman. Present. President Johnson.
Here.
There are 12 members present.
Okay. Councilmember Warsami is attending to a family matter. We have a quorum present. Next item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. The first item is a motion by myself to amend the agenda to include under the order of resolutions a resolution celebrating the 140th anniversary of the parish of Our Lady of Lourdes. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Next, we have a motion by Councilmember Gordon to amend the agenda to modify item 6 under the order of introduction and referral calendar to refer the tobacco sales ordinance to the Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Committee. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Next, we have a motion to adopt the agenda then as amended.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Is there a second? All in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Next, we have the acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of May 26, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Minutes have been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next, we have referral of petitions, communications, and reports to the proper committees.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. The reports of the standing committees are next, and the first is Committee of the Whole. That committee is chaired by Council Vice President Elizabeth Glidden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 3 items on the agenda. The first is directing staff to prepare ordinance language for a municipal minimum wage ordinance. And I will note that we have a special Committee of the Whole meeting on June 22nd at 3:30 for the purpose of hearing public testimony on the minimum wage ordinance. Item 2 is a resolution declaring commitment to performance measures and management system usage. And finally, we have an appointment to the Workplace Advisory Committee, and I will move all 3 items.
Councilmember Glidden has moved the Committee of the Whole report. Any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Community Development and Regulatory Services report. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. The Community Development and Regulatory Services Committee is bringing forward 14 items for approval this morning. Item number 1 is a bond issuance for Friends of Spiro Academy. 2 are the liquor business and gambling license applications. 3 is a license settlement conference. 4 is exclusive development rights to Ideal Development for a property at 41st and Fremont Avenue North. Item 5 is exclusive development rights to Wellington Management for a parcel at Van White and 2nd Avenue North. Item 6 is a first mortgage refinance and subordination for St. Anne's Senior Housing. Item 7 is a reconveyance of land from the state to the city. Item 8 is a contract amendment with Gimmick. Item 9 is a contract with the Home Ownership Center. Item 10 is the Affordable Housing Trust Fund pipeline recommendation for the project known as Mino Bimadiziwin. I get that right? I do want to note that this is the second largest Affordable Housing Trust Fund award we've made in the history of the fund, and it says something about our commitment to partnering with our friends at the Red Lake Band to be able to serve members of our community off reservation that is so desperately needed. This is a really great project of 107 units of affordable housing, as well as the embassy and a wellness center going into this location. So the committee really loved the project, and we're glad we were able to get it in line with our cost containment regulations to be able to fund it. Item number 11 is a contract with the school district for step-up interns. Item 12 is a grant from the U.S. Department of Energy. 13 is a grant from Hennepin County, and 14 is a contract amendment with Homeline. With that, I'll move all items 1 through 14 for approval this morning.
Councilmember Goodman has moved the Community Development and Regulatory Services report. Any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, I just want to point out on item 4 how excited I am that we have moved forward selecting a developer for a tax forfeited property, a commercial property in my ward, 4146 Fremont. It was a long and tortuous road to get control of that property, but thanks to our great staff, we're moving forward on a really exciting proposal with great community input. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Frye.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Health, Environment, and Community Engagement report. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you, Madam President. The Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Committee is bringing forward 4 items for consideration today. The first is an amendment to an agreement with Fairview Diagnostic Laboratories for school-based clinic services. Second item is approving an appointment to the Public Health Advisory Committee of KJ Starr for C2 from Ward 2. The third is approving the application submitted for an outdoor amplified sound permit related to the X Games. And the fourth item is approval of a number of appointments to the Minneapolis Advisory Committee on Aging. They're all in the agenda. Some of them are council appointments and 2 of them are mayoral appointments. I'll move all items forward for approval.
Councilmember Gordon has moved the Health, Environment, and Community Engagement report. Any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Frye.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Goodman.
No on 3. Aye on the remainder.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes on the report except for item 3, which has 11 ayes and 1 nay.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Intergovernmental Relations Committee report. That committee is chaired by the Council Vice President Elizabeth Glidden.
Thanks, Madam Chair. There are 2 items on the agenda. The first is appointments to the Noise Oversight Committee. The second is submission of the preliminary report on the state capital investment bill and a couple items on that. I'll move those items.
Councilmember Glidden has moved the Intergovernmental Relations report. Any discussion on those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Frye.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management Report. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Yang.
Thank you, Madam President. Today we have 5 items. Item number 1 is a contract amendment with the State of Minnesota Intertechnologies Group. Second item is a contract amendment with Advanced Public Safety, Inc. Third item is a contract with Minneapolis Public Schools for SROs to end this summer, and to end this summer as in to just continue on to finish this summer. And the fourth item is a contract with Pillsbury United and area partners for the West Broadway Collaborative Public Safety Strategies. The fifth item is a contract with Native American Community Development Institute, Little Earth, and surrounding area partners for the Collaborative Public Safety Strategies. And I will pull items number 4 and number 5 off, but I will move items number 1 through 3.
Councilmember Yang has moved items 1 through 3 on the Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management Report. Anyone want to speak on any of those items? Seeing none, clerk, call the roll. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Kano?
I'm getting in line for the.
Oh, okay. Clerk, call the roll then on items 1, 2, and 3.
Councilmember Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
Those items are adopted. On item 4, Councilmember Yang, do you want to move that, or I have an amendment?
Right.
Okay.
Yes, Madam President. For items number 4, I believe that you have a motion, and items number 5, Councilmember Kano has a motion.
Okay. I will. It should be in your packet. It's that one.
Okay. Madam President, I guess I will move both items for discussion.
Okay.
One at a time.
All right.
If that's appropriate.
All right. Councilmember Yang has moved public safety number 4 and 5. I will speak to item 4, at which I have an amendment to the agreement with that came through public safety and then also Ways and Means. Move to amend the agreement. It's in front of you to act as the fiscal agent. Pillsbury United Communities to act as the fiscal agent to manage $217,800 of funding for the West Broadway Collaborative Public Safety Strategies. Actually, my motion takes the administrative fee down to a 10% administrative fee and then takes the administrative fee out of the grant recommendations. And the remainder then would be moved in the final sentence. The Minneapolis Police Department is authorized to spend up to $32,200 toward a new portable camera for the West Broadway corridor. And I will speak to that motion if it's all right with people. I have to say that in listening to the programs that were described for the collaborative public safety strategies, I was impressed to hear that a number of the ideas that were brought forward really mixed nicely with people's concerns about the challenges on West Broadway. And activation obviously is the thrust of quite a few of these projects. And the geography was more narrowly defined. West Broadway is a very long street. And it was a challenge to come up with a little bit narrower scope. So Lyndale Avenue to Girard was the focus. And so my concern is that we have a place for people when they come to participate in these activities like dinners in Hawthorne Crossings or a 3-on-3 basketball tournament, that people feel safe in the spaces that are going to be used to program the avenue. And so the portable cameras, I don't know if people know how often we get requests for portable cameras from the police department, but I probably get 2 in a month where people will complain of high, criminal activity and ask for a camera to be placed in a particular area. Also this year, I have to say that I met with Miss Shalisha Beeks, who is the daughter of Burdell Beeks, who was murdered on Penn Avenue in an intersection where there wasn't a camera. It made the apprehension of the people responsible much more difficult, and it is really a challenge. So I'm responding to that. I'm also responding in this little area of Hawthorne Crossings. We've had a request from Urban Homeworks, which has done a beautiful job of activating their space across the street from Hawthorne Crossings, but they remain subject to a lot of the challenges that go on West Broadway. A block north of West Broadway is on Fremont Avenue North, Emerson Avenue North is a very, very busy what's been described as, a place where people meet to buy drugs. There have been homicides, there have been multiple shootings in this area. And so the camera is important for me, I think, just so that people can feel safe sending their families, coming themselves to these activities that are going to be planned. And it is a use of a camera that then doesn't diminish the stock of cameras for other places in the community where we know we'll be asked to send portable cameras this summer. So I would hope I get a second and would appreciate your support on this. Second by anyone?
Second.
Second, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. I first want to say I appreciate the value of cameras and that there are people who want and need them. I will offer to work with you to find a way to fund a camera this summer at Hawthorne Crossing because I too have heard those voices. But there is a principle at stake here with these collaborative strategies dollars that I think is worth following and worth honoring here. That we ask the community to go through a process to make decisions about these dollars. The community made decisions in good faith about $250,000. Decisions have been made by the community using community criteria and community reviewers about which of these strategies should be chosen. And I think in good faith, for the community to have faith in City Hall that the process they agreed to and worked through mattered, that it would be important to give them the resources that we promised them. I think that is also true for Pillsbury United Communities. The administration fee that they are getting, and this will prove true with NACD as well, isn't just to be pass-through dollars, isn't just to administer pass-through dollars. They are also pledging to help build capacity among the organizations involved in these strategies, to have monthly meetings with the awardees to help make sure everything is being coordinated well, to coordinate among the awardees, city officials, including council members, and the MPD. And these are going to be opportunities for problem solving to make sure that not only are the strategies going well, but that the organizations themselves are building capacity inside those organizations. They will also be facilitating meetings between the North Side and the South Side cohorts to help build those relationships across the city, and creating opportunities for capacity in the organization, but also stakeholder relationships. And so I think that it is important, and the principle at stake here is not just, hey, are we spending money on the North Side, but it's, are we allowing the community to make decisions about how to spend money on the North Side? And this is inherently not the community making this decision. There was a deep and wide process. And so I would speak against this motion, but I would also renew the offer to help find the resources for a camera this summer.
Okay. Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you, Madam President. This, of course, isn't in the second ward, but I do have an interest in seeing that the collaborative public safety strategies move forward with integrity. I think this is something new that we're trying, and there's certainly going to be growing pains, and I think we're experiencing a growing pain here today about these. I look at the amendment, and it does seem to maintain a lot of the integrity with what the community wanted to do, but I appreciate what the mayor is saying as well. And so I'm trying to find, is there a spot we could get to where 13 of us would all agree? And it does seem like we may have the authority as a council to direct the department to find the money to put the camera in today, rather than, as the mayor is saying, and the mayor, of course, can't make a motion at our meeting, but one of us could, so that we could decide the camera is of enough value, we are going to dedicate some money there, and we could direct somebody to find it. And that way we could get the camera that the council member from the area is identifying for us all is so critically important, and also acknowledge what the mayor is saying in terms of what's most valuable about this process and what she wants to maintain in terms of the administrative fees and the facilitation fees at Pillsbury United and what the community wanted. I'll have another chance to speak on this, and I could make the motion, but I'd love to see if other people think that there is a way we could get a win-win here. And perhaps Councilmember Quincy, oh, he's out of line now, but somebody, Ways and Means could help do that or think about that, or 32,000 in the scheme of things doesn't seem like a whole lot of money for us, and I know it's not. Every department's going to be stressed for money, and they're going to say it's difficult to come up with those things, but if any department has a lot of money, it would be the police department.
Councilmember Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. So I'm speaking today in favor of this motion. I will be voting to support it. I have a lot of things that I'll be speaking to when I move my motion forward in the next item, but I did want to briefly address the administrative fee concept, which is also a concept that I bring forward in my proposal. So I was able to work with Council President Barb Johnson and the chair of the Public Safety Committee, Councilmember Blanc Yang, on this for the last week and a half or so, since it started to approach the formal and official city council process, which is the natural and the appropriate way for us as council members to weigh in on this. This is indeed a part of the process. This is not outside of the process. This is part of the process. And in fact, I was told multiple times by the mayor's staff that this was the appropriate place for my voice to be heard because I was my office and myself were not allowed to be a part of the selection committee, and some of the ideas that I would bring forward were never taken into consideration. So this is the time to weigh in and to shape these decisions. So on that, the administrative fee, reducing it from about $30,000 to $25,000. And after reviewing the scope of work that we would be asking our community partners to do, I think that we can have the flexibility to rework that scope if the neighborhood groups feel like they cannot accomplish that work with $25,000. I see here 4 bullet points of the work that would be done under that, which is to manage the contracts with the awardees, to convene monthly meetings, to create opportunities for relationship building among awardees and community members, which I think is the flexible part that we can work on, that we can maybe take off of the agreement and find other ways to supplement that work, such as leveraging the resources we already invest in our neighborhood and community relations department to help with that, or leverage the relationship we have through the free technical assistance provided by Cities United, which is that partnership that the mayor brought together to support this effort. And then number 4 on the agreement is to provide a written report to the city, one in September, one in December, to talk about the outcomes and the measures. And I agree that, this is a new project, this is a new initiative. So of course we're going through the learning curve of what it means to work together as the mayor's office and the council on this effort. So I think that, we can certainly work with our neighborhood partners and our fiscal agents to decide if maybe the September report is not a full-out report, but maybe it's more of a check-in. And then the December report would be more of a robust undertaking. So I think that we can have flexibility as policymakers who are weighing in on the process now and shaping this initiative, which is so direly needed by our communities. In fact, last night, an 18-year-old was shot at Ogama Place in Little Earth. And so while I've heard some council members desire more time to consider this decision, I don't think we have more time right now. We're almost at the end of June, and these funds have to be expended by December, and the shootings are happening right now. So we have to trust each other. We have to do the work together. Some of us represent wards that are experiencing this type of criminal activity at alarming rates. Other wards here aren't. And in fact, Council Vice President Glennon and I were at a crime meeting together a few days ago. There was about 50 people. So we are looking for ways to impact this trend in our community today, right now. And I believe we have the right set of decision makers and circumstances to channel these resources in a way that is culturally relevant, appropriate in meeting the need that we see in our community. So I wanted to speak on the administrative fee component, which is something that I will be proposing as well, and I will be supporting Councilmember Barb Johnson's motion today.
Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm not able to support either of these motions, and I just wanted to talk about why. I'm not in a position to delve into the details of what strategies are appropriate in these communities, but I think the overarching values and success of this program is deeply important to our work in building trust with our community around how we're approaching community safety and policing. And this became a very public, broad discussion last year around the time of the budget. And there was actually a lot of organizing and interest in my ward, so I got involved in the conversation. And, you know, we as a council had, I thought, a very thoughtful discussion about the very large increase that we put into our police department for new officers, and the importance of not just funding, you know, reactive incarceration-based policing, but rather to do prevention work as well, as a more sustainable and supportive long-term solution to community safety. And that philosophy was a promise that we made to the community during our budget process, including this relatively small amount of money compared to our overall public safety budget to do community-based strategies. I was not involved at all in the development of this process, but, and perhaps like all first-time programs, there likely could be improvements in the future to the process that was used to select projects. Maybe through the evaluation this year, we would learn lessons about where's the right way to involve community members, how do we, you know, give more time for folks to submit and all of that, which criteria we're using. But this is a process that, as I understand it, again, from my limited involvement, had very heavy involvement from community members. And so for us to now, especially the proposal on item 4, to take money from what is meant to be a community-based and innovative strategy to fund something that we have a process to fund in our normal budget process, seems to me to fly in the face of the commitment that we made to community to try something different and new. And I think it's easy to say, well, organizations can just do reporting and evaluation sort of absorbed into their normal costs, but that's not valuing the time and work that it really takes to run a nonprofit organization and to do the professional work that our partner organizations will be asked to do. And so I would expect if we remove the funding, we would be reducing the work that the organization would be expected to do. I would argue that in this first year of any program, it's important to include reporting and robust evaluation, particularly if there were any concerns about the process this time, so that in the future we can go forward continuing to support community-based policing strategies and, again, not continue to just build up our police budget for arrests and incarceration. I just finally would say one of my concerns is that, you know, many of us have no information about the projects that were submitted, the project, how they were chosen. I do understand that items number 2 and 3 under item number 4 for the agenda item 5, there isn't an actual proposal for these 2 items. This is my understanding, again, not having been involved. That item number 2 was not submitted as a full proposal, so it didn't move to the scoring criteria.
Councilmember Bender, we're not talking about item public safety item number 5. We're talking about public safety item number 4.
I'm sorry, I thought that the previous comments were about item 5. So I'll hold my comments then about item 5 until we discuss that item. So then on item 4, I would just emphatically argue against the proposal to move money from innovative community safety strategies to a camera that we have in our regular police budget.
Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I appreciate the conversation on item number 4 very much, especially recognizing the process that was there in place. And I know as we spoke to it in the Ways and Means Committee, where we moved that forward, we really focused on the administrative costs associated with the contract. And in this case, it would be with Pillsbury. And I would be concerned about what we would lose from the scope of services from that contract by reducing it from 30 to 19.8. Although I understand the intent of that reduction from the council president, I really appreciate the idea of a police department camera, portable camera. Adds a lot of flexibility and is really helpful to our investigations and safety strategies. But it doesn't fit within the category of the collaborative community safety strategies. It's totally appropriate for the Minneapolis Police Department to bring that forward as a request through their department strategies. But with the intent of trying to create the money, to find the money within the police department budget to authorize that expenditure, I would be happy to direct staff with the finance department and police department to locate and source that within the structural balance of the budget we've approved for the 2017 budget, as well as accommodate those kind of suggestions and requirements in the 18 budget, as we're about to take that up in the summer. So I guess the quickest way for me to do that would be to propose a new motion, but I think I'd like to offer an amendment on the Johnson Amendment, which is essentially restoring all the funding associated with the reductions and adding an adjustment to the further clause at the end, which would be to direct finance and Minneapolis Police Department to thank you very much, to identify $32,200 for the purpose of acquiring a new portable camera for the West Broadway corridor.
Councilmember Quincy, I'm going to rule that is a substitute. It's a different motion than my motion. So Councilmember Quincy has a substitute, and it's been seconded. Councilmember Frye.
Thank you, Madam President. I was wondering if Councilmember Quincy would consider a friendly amendment to his motion. So it presently says directing finance and police department staff to identify $32,000. My request would that it be directing finance and police department staff to identify and allocate $32,000 for a new portable camera for the West Broadway corridor. And if it needs to come through Ways and Means in the very next meeting, that would absolutely work. I mean, I don't want, I've seen this before, and oftentimes this money gets lost. And if we're going to do this, let's actually do it.
Councilmember Glidden.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say I'm supportive. It sounds like this might be a resolution to ensure that there is funding for a camera that can go to this area where there have been some, as I understand it, previous requests, and then allow the other recommended funds to go to the partners that were already still in the motion by Council President Johnson and Yang. I mean, I'm very sensitive to these pressures of how to respond in the best way possible to very real crime and safety issues and concerns. And so I'm very supportive of this, and it sounds like, I'll just tell you, in a big budget, I think we can find this amount of money, and the mayor has pledged to help ensure that that is done as well. So I'm supportive.
Any further discussion then? Well, I would urge my colleagues to support this today. I think that this is a solution that is helpful. I will point out, however, Councilmember Bender, you said you were not involved with the process, nor was I. I want to point that out. This process was absent any city council participation. That's part of the problem here. And I will also say that community includes Urban Homeworks. It includes the people that live and work. It includes Juxtaposition, who actually was one of the proposers, who's had their office shot through. This is a serious problem. And when I ask for a camera that I need for one of my communities who are experiencing drive-by shootings, and I'm told there aren't enough cameras, we have to move them from someplace else because there aren't enough cameras. This is a serious, real situation. And so I'm happy if we direct the police department, but we better make sure in our next budget that we put enough money in there for portable cameras so that nobody in this city that requests one has the answer, sorry, there aren't enough of them. Thank you. Then on the motion, Councilmember Andrew Johnson.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to thank my colleagues for coming up with this compromise that funds the camera and maintains the integrity of these allocations.
Any further discussion then on Councilmember Quincy's substitute? Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to
Councilmember
make sure
Fry's
with
addition.
Councilmember Quincy that we have taken the friendly amendment to add the word and allocate immediately $32,200.
Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Madam President. I think for clerical purposes, because I know we can't go too deep on substitutes and amendments, I'd just like to reiterate or my intent of the motion is to restore the allocated expenditures for all of the programs, and the staff direction is to direct finance and Minneapolis Police Department staff to identify and purchase a new portable camera for the West Broadway corridor.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Any further discussion then on Councilmember Quincy's substitute? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. That item is now passed. Thank you very much. Next item on to Councilmember Cano.
Madam President, so can I go ahead and make my motion for number 5?
Yes, you may.
Okay, thank you. So we have distributed the language for the PSCREM item number 5, which is an amendment to the groups that were brought to our attention through the selection process that the mayor's office put together for this public safety money. So everyone can see that there were 6 items on this point, on this piece of paper, and each one of these talks about the different groups that would be resourced through this grant initiative. So specifically, the changes would be instead of Good Space murals for $40,000, we would do $38,000 for Wake 'em Up Productions. Instead of Police Activities League and a women's group for $40,000, we would be doing a sweat lodge and medicinal garden with Indigenous Peoples Task Force. Instead of the Little Earth Youth Development Center with the $65,000 allocation, we would be doing a $65,000 allocation to Natives Against Heroin in the White Earth Nation. We would then be moving $7,000 additionally to the Little Earth Memorial Park with the Little Earth Resident Association, and reducing the administrative fee from $30,000 to $25,000. So I would like to make that motion and then speak to it briefly.
Councilmember Cano has moved a substitute then for item 5. Is there a second? Second.
Thank you. So I just want to discuss the impetus for these changes and the process that has been leading us into this decision today. So as you might recall, the original request to have these resources come to our communities stems from about 2 years ago, when my office and the Little Earth residents came together to host the mayor at the Little Earth building and housing community to talk about the challenges that we're having there with crime and safety. And through that, this resource was then made available of $250,000 to both North and South Minneapolis, and the council went ahead and approved it. Now, even though we approved this money back in December, the process to work on implementing and putting this money to work in our community didn't start until about two and a half months ago, where we began engaging with the mayor's staff members to talk about the structure for putting this money out into the community's hands. And so originally this proposal and this grant cycle was crafted as a way to uplift and award innovative ideas that could have quick interventions in stopping the violence in our communities. Some people refer to that as the violence interrupter method. And so a process was then put in place that my office and myself tried to participate in multiple times, but were consistently not listened to. And so one of the examples is, the selection committee was handpicked by Nicole Archibald from the mayor's office, where committee members were recruited and put together within, I would say, 5 days. And then quickly after that, community members were asked to submit ideas within a time frame of a week. And I was opposed to having such a short time frame in requesting ideas for this money, because we knew that only the inside players were going to have information about how to apply and when to apply. That request to extend that timeline was not granted, but in fact was granted by 3 more days later, when there were not enough proposals that came in as ideas into this process. And so then, after those 7 to 10 days passed and there were enough ideas to take into consideration, people who, out of the 33 ideas that were submitted, 12 of them were invited to submit full proposals. And out of those 12, about 5 or 6 were then selected from each area. And in talking to some of the people who were recommended as getting some of this support, they did mention distress in having to turn a full proposal within 3 days' notice from moving into an idea to an actual full proposal. And so that's where we started losing the integrity of this initiative, because ideally this process was supposed to be grassroots, community-led, for residents who don't have access to big nonprofits or infrastructure that allows them to bring their voices forward on how to address crime and safety issues. And what we saw is that out of the 33 ideas, the 12 that were invited to submit a full proposal indeed had to hire or work with professional grant writers to even get their ideas heard at the second level. So what we're seeing here is a systematic weeding out of individual residents who have good ideas about how to address the crime and safety issues that the city is not used to funding, has not funded before, and ideas that are innovative, that are supposed to meet the goals of this grant, that were not supported through a technical assistance angle or other methods to make it through this very speedy and oftentimes intransparent process. And so after these 12 ideas were asked to come forward with full proposals, then out of those 5 or 6 were selected by this committee. And the selection committee changed twice, once at the initial idea review, and then second when they were reviewing the 12 to move down to the 6. So there was a lack of consistency between the 2 committees, and in fact the selection committee for the most part was comprised of city staff and included very few resident voices. So once again, my office tried to participate. I tried to participate to shape and guide this this work, because it's us at the end of the day who are held responsible for the impact that this work has and for the outcomes and the success that this work has or doesn't have. So for some of us who represent wards that are literally drowning in crime issues, where we have shootings regularly, where people are getting stabbed, where commercial sexual exploitation abounds, the skin in the game here is a little bit more more involved here for us, in that we do want to be really engaged and participate actively because we attend so many crime and safety meetings, because we hear from so many of our residents about what's needed, because we are out there doing the night patrols at midnight, because we are out there doing the community vigils with residents when their children die, because we're the ones out there getting yelled at when residents feel completely unsafe, can't hang out in their sidewalks anymore, can't go out on the streets. And in fact, I've personally door knocked with the Minneapolis Police Department after there's been shootings, and I see how Latino families are living in fear in their own homes because there's people ODing on their front steps. There's needles on their sidewalks, there's needles in their own yards. And so I completely sense the gap that this funding needs to go towards. And that's why in this process where we as council members get to touch and shape this work right now, this is the appropriate place to do it. I'm bringing forward these changes. And so the Wake 'em Up Productions project did make it to the 12 full proposal request, but was not one that moved on to the final set of recommendations by the selection committee that was put together by Nicole Archbold. The Sweat Lodge and Medicinal Garden was an idea submitted by a young mother at Little Earth with no support from any nonprofits or any professional grant writers. That idea was not invited to be a part of the 12, but it is an idea that I have heard consistently be requested by Little Earth residents at almost every meeting that I go to, that they want a sweat lodge, that they want to be able to do this with their elders, that they want the medicinal garden there, but there's no resources for it.
Councilmember Cano, your time is up on this one, but you can speak again.
Okay. Should I add myself or just keep going?
You wanted to put yourself in line again.
Okay.
For
sounds
second speech. Excuse me, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and I am going to speak against this motion. I'd like to start by just reminding folks what the history is of these dollars, that in the wake of the occupation of the 4th Precinct and the death of Jamar Clark, in the demonstrations that happened after that and the community conversations that happened after that, one of the very vocal voices in the community were people saying, we want to take more responsibility for public safety in our neighborhoods. And in my budget, as I framed my budget last year, as I put it together, I listened to and heeded that voice. And we have a mental health co-responder model. We have a group violence intervention model, both of them community-based and led. And when I was seeking other ways to make sure that we had community-based public safety interventions, I realized and had the idea, why don't we let the community decide how the community wants to invest in public safety in their neighborhoods? And that is where these dollars came out of. So the point wasn't that City Hall would make a decision about how to enact public safety in neighborhoods. We have many, many, many places and tens of millions of dollars that we spend on public safety and building community trust. This is $500,000, and indeed in this motion, $250,000 for the community to make decisions about how to build public safety. And by so doing, hopefully we can build community trust between us and the community even further. That's the history of this. And so today there have been a number of inaccuracies about the process, and I just want to make clear for colleagues who are considering this motion, part of the point was that we as elected leaders would not be the ones making these decisions. We make lots of decisions about the dollars of the city. This is $250,000 that we don't make the decisions about. I could not have been more clear in my budget address that that was the intention. I could not have been more clear in my State of the City address a few weeks ago that this was the intention for these dollars. And so we brought in technical assistance, somebody from outside the city, to help the community walk through a process. We did not, Nicole Archbold did not handpick committees. People who wanted to review these proposals got to review these proposals. That is an inaccuracy. At no point did anybody from my office, most notably me or Nicole Archbold or my chief of staff or anybody else say, well, when it gets to the council, then you can decide about these dollars. As a matter of fact, we've been pushing against that notion from the very, very beginning. Yes, the timeline was short for getting the proposals back, because when these dollars were in the budget in December, you all very clearly said those dollars have to be out the door by mid-June. And so this is the timeline that we had, and we met it. And we met it. And yes, it meant that the timeline for turnaround for proposals was quite short. But there was council involvement, not necessarily in deciding what projects should be chosen, that was not the point, but that there were 6 or 8 meetings in person with council members, including Council President Johnson, including Council Member Cano. There were multiple emails, over 10 emails with updates, offers to meet even more frequently. This started in February as we were shaping the process to get feedback from people. I have them all. I have them all in front of me. We did offer financial resources to Little Earth and to Councilmember Cano to get the word out. Cities United, we found more financial resources to get the word out from Councilmember Cano. That didn't move forward, but we went out of our way to make sure that Councilmember concerns were met. So the proposals in front of us, what we do know is that the Alter Ego project didn't score high enough to be in the top proposals. There may be merit there, and if we do this again, I would say let's work more and move forward. The Sweat Lodge project didn't move to phase 2. It didn't score high enough to move to phase 2 of this process. And the Natives Against Heroin project wasn't a project. It didn't get scored. It was part mentioned in another project, but it wasn't something in and of itself. But we do know that the Frank Downwind's proposal was the highest scoring proposal. And that Cedar Fields was the most requested thing that people wanted most, was something to be done about Cedar Fields. And so if we go with proposals that weren't part of the process, there's a set of information that we don't have about them moving forward, like how much does it cost to implement them, who is going to be involved. We are asking for a whole bunch of stuff. We won't be able to gauge their capacity to implement the idea. We don't know if their budget is reasonable or not because they have not been through the process. We don't have information about measures or their evaluation plan. And we can't speak to how they measure against the categories of evaluations that the other proposals were scored against: collaboration, safety, activation, community engagement, feasibility, and overall impact. Those were the criteria that the community chose. And that all the proposals that are on this page that were initially put forward to this body, those were scored against those community criteria. These have not been. These have not been. And so as people are considering this, what I would ask is, first of all, we made a commitment to the Native American community in this city, the American Indian community in this city, about the process, about what their participation in the process would mean, and about what the results would mean. And that included that the results they chose would be the results they got. And we at City Hall should not be in the business of breaking promises to our Indigenous communities. And finally, the principle at stake here is from the very beginning, the whole idea, and it's basically public safety meets participatory budgeting. The whole idea was, we're talking about $250,000 here out of the entire city budget that we have asked the community to make decisions about in a community-led and community-based process. That's the principle that you'll be voting on today. It's not just a set of projects and which is a good project and which is a bad project. But it's the principle of, are we going to keep our word to the community, and are we going to do what we said we were going to do when we started out down this road? I could not have been more clear from the beginning that the intention was the community decides and we invest in the community's decisions. And that's what's in front of you today. Are you going to invest in the community's decisions or not? And I will say to the community as well, if this passes today, just know that your mayor does not support it, that was not my intention, that I understand that it will breed distrust with City Hall, and we will do our best to move forward together, but I do not support this. And I ask colleagues and council members on the dais to vote no.
Councilmember Gordon. Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I appreciate the time and the comments of my colleagues up here. There seems to be quite a clear divide, probably from the two elected officials. We would want to be most united about this issue that's happening in the 9th Ward, and it's an initiative of the mayor's office. In fact, looking on the RCA, the lead staff of this is the mayor herself, so that's pretty significant. So my expectation and hope would have been when we got here today, we would have had those two individuals united and firmly supportive and behind this. So it's unfortunate we got here. However, we got here, I don't know, and we all, different things get us to different points, but it makes it really hard for somebody like me who wants to support the community, support Little Earth, is very supportive of the collaborative approaches, bought in fully to let's develop a process and let's have participatory budgeting over this little bit of money so we can have the community guiding some safety initiatives in the area and having the input. Of course, I recognize that ultimately we are the elected officials. We're responsible for the budget. We're held accountable. So, of course, we have to review those decisions as they go out, and that's going to happen. And I think that was always the assumption, too. So I have to say that there is, it's not necessarily inappropriate that the council would want to look at that and scrutinize those things and make the final judgment on it. That's our appropriate role, and here it is. I don't know how to get the parties together or how we'll really get to a good resolution right now today. The only thing that I can think of is if we had some more time, and maybe it's more time we should have had, back when it was beginning. So the process could have got ironed out together. So the policymakers could have been together and say, do we agree this is going to be a fair process in the end and take more time? We didn't apparently take that enough time there. I'm wondering if maybe if we had 2 more weeks, I know that this would delay things, this would delay initiatives that are coming forward. The council itself, we were pushing to get this done quickly because we know we want initiatives and public safety is paramount. But what I would ask is if we could hold it over one cycle, maybe give the opportunity for the mayor's office and the 9th Ward office to talk about it and possibly go back in touch with the community stakeholders who are involved in it so that they have an opportunity to hear some of these ideas too and give some feedback.
Ma'am, we do not allow speakers during our council meeting. Ma'am, we do not allow speakers during our during our council meetings. Thank you.
I'll interpret that as support for my idea from the I don't know that I'll necessarily make a motion right now, but I'd support that motion.
Sorry, Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I began to speak about this earlier, but I do think it's important to just reemphasize why I can't support these changes. As we move toward an era, in this last budget cycle, we created this one small program in public safety, again, as part of a much bigger and very important discussion with community across the city about how we're approaching policing and public safety. And this was part of our commitment to community to show that we don't think about policing simply as arrests and incarceration, right? That's the context in which this money came forward. And honoring that commitment is important. And I think, if there are process concerns about something that the city has done with significant amounts of community time, with folks from community participating in ranking and scoring with internal and external partners as part of the process, with a scoring system that was created with community input. If there's such a problem, if the process is so flawed that we have to make changes to literally almost every project that was scored by the community, we should just start over. Because this took people's time. When we go out to community and say, we want you to come and volunteer your time to participate, we know you're taking time away from your families, your jobs, your other commitments. And so for us to throw it out and not honor it, I think is breaking our commitment to the community. And it's something I can't support. So if this process is so flawed that we must start over and not use the money this year, I mean, that would be, I think, a disappointment and not what I would suggest. But it sort of reemphasizes why I think it's important to honor our commitment to the community and what came out of this process. And if the process needs improvement for next year, then we should make process improvements for next year as part of a system. We also, in the last budget, approved funding for a small amount of money to start designing a participatory budgeting process. And as Councilmember Gordon said, this is a form of participatory budgeting. This is taking a small amount of money out of the budget that council members get to decide every year, $1 billion that we vote on as policymakers, and saying we're going to take a different approach this time. And again, that is on a much slower track, right? There will be a different kind of process for whatever comes out of that. But for us to dip our toes into participatory budgeting and then say, no, we're not going to honor the process that we set up, I think will call into question future community involvement in whatever we bring forward out of our more formal participatory budgeting. I also am concerned that in the Public Safety Committee, only the projects that were not selected were able to speak. So I had a chance to go back and watch that video. I'm not on the committee, but none of the community members or participants in the process were able to speak. No one from the community spoke about their participation in the scoring, and none of the projects that have been eliminated were able to speak on the behalf of those projects. So if, as policymakers, we're supposed to weigh which projects are better than others, there isn't full information. So for all of those reasons, I can't support these last-minute changes. The other thing I will note, it's not uncommon for us to make motions at city council meetings, but part of the reason that we typically do it as part of the committee process or even at committee of the whole a couple of days ago is for then policymakers like me who don't represent this part of town would at least have time to hear from community in the interim, right? So that there's a more transparent and open way for us to make this decision. So again, me not knowing the different community groups and organizations available, if I need to follow up with staff about the fact that I'm hearing that 2 of these projects don't have proposals, then we have a little bit more time to get those details that are so important if we're going to override community process as policymakers and make our own decisions. Thanks.
Councilmember Frye.
Thank you, Madam President. Several points. First, not a single one of these proposals, either the originals or the proposed changes, are about arrests and incarcerations. So that's just not the case. Every single one of them is community-minded and community-led, and not a single one has anything to do with arrests or incarceration. So I just want to make that exceedingly clear. Second, I am not aware who was on the selection committee. I'm not sure if Councilmember Cano is aware of who was on a selection committee, or if she had any ability to gather community input in making those selections. And I agree that last-minute changes make the process difficult. However, last-minute selections also create a process that is flawed. Both of those things are true. And if we are indeed, and I'm taking Councilmember Cano's word, if we are talking about 1 week to get ideas, followed by another 3 days, yes, that most definitely favors certain organizations and excludes others. 1 week is not a lot of time, and if we really are talking about a process that is to have additional time and transparency, yes, that applies today, but it also applies to the process itself. It also applies to the process itself, and clearly there was not a lot of time, and apparently there was not a lot of transparency either. So I agree with Councilmember Gordon's proposal to move this to discuss this deeper in committee. And I don't know if there's a motion on the table to that extent.
There is not.
But if there is, then I would make one.
Second.
Are you making a motion to postpone?
Yes, I am.
Or for a cycle, excuse me, for a cycle. Councilmember Frye has moved to postpone this item for a cycle. Any discussion? Councilmember Glidden, excuse me.
Thanks, Madam President. I wanted to speak in favor of this motion, although I will say I'm not sure that the 1 cycle postponement is going to solve the issues. That is really a difference in approach and what we want out of this. We may at the end be kind of in the same spot, kind of voting on what we think about preserving whatever there is of the integrity of the process and some other things. I do think, however, that it sounds to me at least like we're quite divided. If I was going to vote on the underlying motion today, I would not be able to support this number of changes to the recommendations that had come forward. I would be more likely to support starting all over if that was the will of the council than making so many changes to the process. So I think I support the motion. We'll see how folks feel about it. And I'm not positive it's going to help in the end, but I do think it at least allows some more conversation, and I think also hopefully some conversation between Councilmember Cano and the mayor's office and other parts of the process to answer questions that she has.
Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Madam President. I have thought about the idea of delaying it and what that would achieve and what it would not. So on Councilmember Frye's motion to postpone, I guess I'm not going to support that. I would be voting no for the postponement, precisely for the main reason that this entire collaborative safety strategy was brought forward in the budget process last year. The intent was to get this money out on the street. It's to do it quickly and to do it in the way that followed the process. So I guess I'd like to talk to the first amendment by Councilmember Cano, and I'm afraid that if we continue to postpone the item, we wouldn't have that opportunity. So since we're here, I'd like to fully discuss that motion first. So that's why the primary reason to speak against the postponement motion at this time.
Councilmember Cano.
Thank you, Madam President. I would actually be open to postponing this item so that we can get more consensus between the mayor's office and myself. Nicole Archibald is out right now, and she's been out since yesterday and will be out till the 20th. That's the person we've been working with directly on this issue. I will say that the selection committee did not have many resident voices, and we can go down the list and look at the people that showed up to both of those selection committee conversations through the meeting minutes that were taken by your office to identify the residents that were actually a part of this process. I'm aware that there were 4 to 5 city staff that were a part of the process. That's great, but really this was supposed to be led by residents and supposed to award resident voices, not institutions, to do the work that residents feel is really needed. So I support the idea of moving this to committee to try to get more clarity about the actual need in our community and how these projects can meet that need. I will say that on the current proposed slate of the original, recommendations from the selection committee that was put together by the mayor's office, we're missing serving the young men of color and indigenous men who are involved in the day-to-day violence in our communities. The Rory, Wake 'em Up Productions is a Native American young man who grew up in this neighborhood and is now hoping to connect with folks at that level. Good Space Murals actually has a couple of grants with the city already and is really involved in other projects throughout the 9th Ward, which I support and I'm working with them on. The PALS, the Police Activities League with Cheryl Lee Goodman, she's proposing to work with a circle of young women. We have groups of women who are already working with each other to address some of these issues. In fact, the commercial sexual exploitation money that we approved last year is doing just that. The Geraldine Jackson proposal was an idea that was not selected to move forward. It's resident driven. She is a young mother in this neighborhood that is expressing a need that multiple people have expressed consistently in crime meetings that I attend in this area where this money is intended to support. The Natives Against Heroin project is actually mentioned a few times in both the ideas and the final proposals that were submitted in the round of 12. And it is actually the group that shows up every time there's a shooting. So when you're talking about the 18-year-old that was shot last night at Little Earth, in the Little Earth area, that is a person that was showing up on the streets. It's not the muralists that are showing up. It's not the PALS folks that are showing up. It is the folks like James Cross who have been involved in situations similar to what we see today, who are trying to help the young Native men find a new way forward. So I cannot support the current slate of proposals because I know as a person who works in this neighborhood, who lives in this neighborhood every day, that we are not meeting the need of working with the young men of color who need support from other men of color who have exited the cycle of violence and are looking to help other folks do the same thing. So that to me is the biggest, the missed mark here is that we are, in fact, funding pre-established institutions that are freestanding nonprofits that have served the community for decades, and we're not really funding innovative ideas that are resident-led by the residents for the residents without the nonprofit industrial complex kicking in. And so for me, I would actually love to be able to work with the mayor's office some more and with my council colleagues some more to find this alignment that is needed because, over the past week and a half, we have debated with multiple people about what to do on this issue. It's not an easy thing to bring forward. I don't get any political points by doing what I'm doing right now. You guys know that. I'm not doing this to be popular or cool. I'm actually doing this because at the end of the day, when I go home, I want to make sure that we made the right decision. And when we're not funding the people who are going to serve the men of color and indigenous men in our community to serve as violence interrupters, then this work is not really addressing the root causes that we're seeing involved in the cycles of violence in our communities. So if we can move to go ahead and send it back to committee, let's do it. And I will be happy to work with folks on that and to arrive at some resolution that is that finds some common ground between the different ideas going on here.
Actually, Councilmember Cano, the motion was to postpone for a cycle. Am I correct? So it would be on the floor, not back to committee. Okay. I'm next. I would just encourage my colleagues to listen to Councilmember Cano, who's willing to discuss this proposal and take some time. And I think part of what's going on here is it is very difficult to define who is the community. Everybody that lives in a community is part of the community. Everybody that works in a community is part of the community. And when we have these projects, it is a real challenge to say this represents the community, because you're going to have different people at the table for every initiative that you have. So defining community, I've been here 20 years. That's one of the biggest challenges that we have. And so I would encourage us when we talk about these strategies that we're perhaps less specific about the community, because that people get really riled up about that stuff. The other thing I want to say is that our police are not responsible for incarceration. Our police arrest people in compliance with existing laws that have been put on the books by legislators, by us as city council members, ordinances. Then someone enters into the criminal justice system where they are charged by attorneys. They are judged by judges. Police do not incarcerate people. So I resent when we talk about policing as policing and incarceration. Our police don't incarcerate anybody. I want to make that clear. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. I am going to speak against the motion to postpone. First, in terms of community and who is community, Cities United, in partnership with city departments and council member offices, did a great amount of outreach to make sure that anybody who wanted to be part of this process could be part of this process. And I appreciate that Councilmember Cano wants to work with me. I would say a call about this at any point in the last 72, 96 hours would have been welcome, and we could have had this conversation. But I will also say Nicole Archbold being out of town has nothing to do with the objections moving forward, because I have been keeping track of this process. This is an incredibly important project, not just for me, but for the city. And the conversation here today about postponement is just a doubling down on the principle of, is City Hall going to get in and mess around with what the community decided, or is City Hall not going to do that? So I would just say to community, and I would say to my colleagues, that a vote to postpone is a vote to say, yes, City Hall should be messing around with decisions that the community has made for itself in a process and a timeline certainly that the council decided. And I will just add that community members had 10 days to write their proposals, not 5, just as a small correction to some other misinformation out there. But, what's happening here is it's not clear to me if people are arguing, hey, it was a bad process, or if people just didn't like the outcome. And it strikes me that the community created a set of outcomes, and the whole point was to have a product at the end that community decided on. And the whole point was, whether we liked it or not, the community gets to decide. And that is what has happened here. And there can be a process argument about it, but at the end of the day, there was a process. It was a strong, widespread process, and the community came up with decisions about what they wanted to do with $250,000, let's remember. Out of all the other dollars that we have in the city, they are making proposals about $250,000. And so the question really about postponement is, do we actually want to let the community make decisions about these dollars, or do we, as City Hall, want to make decisions about these dollars? And I would say, I don't want City Hall making a decision about these dollars, because the community already did.
Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you again, Madam President. I just wanted to clarify on the motion to postpone. I am concerned about the change in the scope of services, and the postponement would, I think, further delay the implementation of the programs that's being put forward, and it would prevent some of the safety strategies to be put in place sooner. I'm particularly concerned about the distribution of funds, the project support, the coordination, and the convening of the awardees that is part of the contract with NACD to do that. And a delay not only delays the availability of the funds to move forward, I think it further constrains NACD's ability to convene these groups and bring this process forward that we want to improve in future budgets. So I worry about the trust that would be eroded, that is not improved should a delay occur to the postponement of it. And I'm very concerned about the relationship that we would have with a contractor as a fiscal agent not being able to do their job by the hint of a reduction of those services, which are exactly the services that we want to have in place that is outside the scope of the responsibilities of the Minneapolis City Council and the cities. We could do this through Neighborhood Community Relations Department. We could do it through the Minneapolis Police Department. But it's really important to understand that the Minneapolis budget does not create grants. We do outcome-based contracts with service providers. And in this case, we've selected NACD to build capacity and to implement and to coordinate and to convene. Those are something that the city staff cannot do, does not have the time or the capacity to do, in addition to the other sources and the other projects that our staff is busily working on our behalf. So that's, again, another reason that we should vote no on the postponement issue, so we can take up the larger issue and decide how we're going to move this project forward, or whether we're going to wait until next year to reconstruct a project that's been in place.
Councilmember Gordon.
Well, I appreciate all the comments and all the input about the idea of postponing. I still support it. I actually believe that the community will respect us for doing so. I think that they'll recognize that there was some difference of opinion on the council here, and that we were willing to respect each other and listen to each other and take the time so that we could work some of these details out. I noticed there was some difference in the previous agenda item that we had. We were able to work it out here as a committee to make sure that the council member from that area had some needs met and the integrity of the community process was preserved. I think if we postpone this, that's what we're going to be interested in getting back and hearing about at our next council meeting, is how did we preserve the integrity of the community process, and how are we going to move forward looking back saying, wow, that collaborative public safety thing really worked. It was hard, but we ended up coming together with a resolution that we all supported to move forward, and we had enthusiastic backing from the mayor's office, from all the community stakeholders, and from the council member's office and the full council. We haven't had an opportunity to hear from NACD about what a 2-week delay might mean or not. I'm not sure that it's going to put them so they won't move forward with any of this work or anything. I understand there'll be some angst with all the entities out there about, oh, will I get this grant awarded or not? But there's going to be a chance for them to weigh in over the next 2 weeks. So I think if we do this, we're going to have more respect from the community. We're going to have a better resolution at our next meeting, and we'll probably have more respect for each other up here. So I encourage us to at least take this time. If it doesn't work, and in one cycle we come back as divided as ever, well, then we can go through this again, but hopefully with a little less talking.
Councilmember Cano.
I just wanted to reiterate my support for having more time to have this conversation, and it's unfortunate the mayor's office doesn't want to support me in that, but I do feel like there's a significant gap here in that we are not funding when we could be funding from the 12 proposals that were put forward and the 33 ideas that came forward, work that serves as violence interrupters by men of color and indigenous men with Indigenous men and men of color who are directly involved in the activities that we know nobody has been able to intervene on sufficiently to stop the consistent shootings that are happening in front of our children, in front of our family members, in front of our elders, in front of our community residents. So it's unfortunate that, the people who were, the organizations that were submitted on this piece of paper were notified as being awardees before the council was able to take final votes. I think that was a major misstep in this process. I think it misled people. I think it raised expectations where it shouldn't have. We did not do any turnout for this meeting today because we were worried about the impact of this in the overall broad community, because there's so many good ideas, limited resources, but certainly as a mother of 3 children who are growing up in Phillips, in East Phillips specifically, as a woman of color who was out in every single crime prevention community meeting and vigil and night patrol, I don't consider myself as City Hall. I consider myself as a person who's directly impacted by the violence where our communities live, which is also the neighborhood that I live in. I don't get to go home to a safe place where I can just forget about all the shootings and all the needles. I actually have to worry about my children doing those same things in the same communities that the very residents who are impacted here are worried about. So this isn't City Hall coming down on anybody. This is actually me representing a voice that is missing from this table, that actually came to testify at the Public Safety Committee. Young men of color, Indigenous men who said, we are not a part of this conversation, we need to be. When there were shootings, a few months ago at Little Earth, we had a community meeting that pulled together anywhere from 50 to 60 people with an overwhelming majority of women present in the room. And the question I asked at that meeting was, where are our men? Where are the young men and the men of color and the Indigenous men who are directly impacted by this? Where are they? Why aren't we hearing from them? Who's working with them? So that's the piece that's, to me, is really missing from this slate of ideas. That they're great ideas. Murals are really good. We have a lot of those in the 9th Ward. We want more. Having a city staff member from the police department leading the PALS activity is great, and I know they're a nonprofit that gets support from other places. I don't think the city needs to be funding itself, per se. So I would appreciate having more time to really discuss this and come to a more balanced solution, which we know can easily be reached by having us work with the mayor's office and the selection committee. And in fact, we should have another community meeting to talk about these issues and see where this participatory voice can have a higher stake in the game outside of just having 1 or 2 residents be a part of the selection committee, where we miss the mark in identifying and uplifting the resident-led ideas of people who are Native American and are from these neighborhoods and live in these streets to provide the strategies and initiatives that are going to be serving our residents in a way that we haven't done before.
Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Madam President. Could Councilmember Fry, who made the motion, or Councilmember Kano describe what they're going to do in the next 2 weeks to get to the decision about making these changes that hasn't happened in the previous months? Like, how would the community be involved in the next 2 weeks? That's also the council meeting where we'll be voting on the minimum wage. So we've spent a lot of time discussing this as a council. So if the 2 weeks is just to have more discussions at City Hall and, talk to council members about their votes, that doesn't seem like a huge amount of value. So what community process could take place in the next 2 weeks that hasn't taken place in the previous months?
So are you asking Councilmember Fry to respond? Councilmember Bender?
I included Councilmember Fry because he made the motion, so I don't know who wants to respond, but whoever feels most comfortable speaking to the reason for the delay of what we would gain out of 2 more weeks of delay.
Madam President, I'll answer.
Councilmember Fry.
Clearly, there's a major lack of communication right now. I don't think anybody would dispute that. And I think having an additional 2 weeks to get on the same page. We talk about a community process, and yes, we value the community process. We value having substantial input in this exact form. But when we talk about just having 1 week or 1 week and 3 days, when we've had since the last budget was set, I think at the very least doing what we should have done to begin with, which is communicate, is necessary, and that can happen within a week and a half or 2 weeks.
Councilmember Yang.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to just call to question this motion by Councilmember Fry.
Councilmember Yang has moved to call the question. Any discussion on that?
I'd like a roll call vote.
On calling the question?
Sorry, I didn't know you could call the question on a movement to postpone.
Sure, okay. On the, do people want a roll call vote on calling the question?
No.
Pardon me?
I withdraw my motion.
Okay. Councilmember Yang has moved to call the question. All in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. The question has been called on Councilmember Fry's motion to postpone.
I would like a roll call on this.
A roll
vote,
call. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
No.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
No.
Quincy.
No.
Goodman, if absent. President Johnson.
Aye.
There are eight ayes and 3 nays.
That motion passes. The item is postponed for a cycle. Next, we have the Transportation and Public Works report. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee will be forwarding 12 items for consideration and approval today. Item 1 is the 2017 Alley Renovation Program, project approval and assessment. Item 2 is the 46th Avenue South Street Reconstruction Project, approval and assessment. Item 3 is the Minneapolis Stormwater Management Program and annual report. It was a great presentation for that report. Item 4 is the temporary easement and agreement for the University of Minnesota for repair of the 10th Avenue Storm Tunnel. Item 5 is the agreement with the Minnesota Department of Transportation for landscaping improvements in the Tangletown neighborhood. Item 6 is the agreement with Copart for off-site auction services. Item 7 is a contract amendment with AECOM for the 26th Avenue North Street Reconstruction Project. Item 8 is the contract amendment with Thomas & Sons for the 7th Street North Reconstruction Project. Item 9 is the agreement with the Minnesota Department of Transportation for Samotar Crossing Project. Item 10 is the professional services contract with Parsons Brinkenhoff Incorporated for the 3rd Street Crossover Project. Item 11 is the grant from Hennepin County for 27th Avenue Northeast Protected Bikeway Project. And item 12 is the 26th Avenue North Street Reconstruction Project Assessment Reduction for 66 26th Avenue North. Madam President, I move all items as submitted.
Councilmember Reich has moved the Transportation and Public Works report. Anyone want to pull any of those items off? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
That report's adopted. Next, we have the Ways and Means Committee report. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Madam President. Ways and Means brings forward 14 items for your consideration this morning. The first is a contract with Paradigm for court reporting services from the City Attorney's Office. City Coordinator's Office brings forward a grant acceptance from Rockefeller Foundation and a grant from the McKnight Foundation for the Partners of Place Equity Initiative pilot for the Green Zone policy support and implementation. We also have a grant from the Funders Network for that same Green Zone policy support and implementation. And there's a gift acceptance from Clear Channel Outdoor for billboard display time. Item number 6 is the low bid for Minneapolis Convention Center wayfinding signage project with Messenger Construction. We also have a contract amendment with Premier Electrical Corporation for some contract closeout work at the Convention Center. Item number 8 is the low bid for Fire Station 15 floor reconstruction, a lease with T-Mobile for cellular equipment at the Hoff ramp, a lease for safety signs for equipment storage, and a gift and donation acceptance for the for May of 2017 report. Item number 12 is a contract with Arete Consulting Group for a texting system for 311 department. Items 13 and 14 are collective bargaining agreements, one with AFSCME Council 5 and Local 9 for the period ending December 31st, 2019, and a collective bargaining agreement with MPEA, that's the Minneapolis Professional Employees Association, also through the year of 2019. I'd like to move all 14 items for approval.
Councilmember Quincy has moved the Ways and Means report. Anyone want to pull any of those things off? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Zoning and Planning Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 3 items from zoning and planning. Item number 1 is rezoning at 501 East Lake Street to C2 to allow for a restaurant with general entertainment. Item number 2 is rezoning at 816 Lowry Avenue Northeast to C1 to allow for a restaurant. And item number 3 is rezoning and street vacations for 620 Olson Memorial Highway, approving an application there to allow for 2 new K through 12 schools and the related applications. I will move items 1 through 3.
Councilmember Bender has moved the Zoning and Planning report. Any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the notice of ordinance introductions. The first is a notice of intent by Councilmember Gordon to introduce at the next regular meeting of the City Council the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to health and sanitation, amending regulations for the use of carry-out bags in retail establishments. That notice is given. Next, we have the introduction and referral calendar. The first is an introduction by Councilmember Goodman and Glidden to introduce the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to housing for first reading and referral to Community Development Regulatory Services Committee, adding provisions requiring the advance notice of sale of multiple family rental dwellings. Any discussion on that introduction? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. 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 Opposed, that carries. Next, we have by Councilmember Goodman and Councilmember Reich, motion introduction of the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to liquor and beer for first reading and referral to Community Development Regulatory Services Committee, amending various provisions relating to temporary licenses for events. Any discussion on that introduction? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed, that carries. Next, we have pursuant to notice, Councilmember Fry is introducing the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to the housing code for first reading and referral to Community Development Regulatory Services, amending and adding provisions related to the regulation of short-term rentals. Any discussion on that introduction? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed, that carries. Next, we have pursuant to notice, Councilmember Fry moves to introduce the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to licenses and business regulations for first reading and referral to the Community Development Regulatory Services Committee, adding a new Chapter 351 entitled Short-Term Rental Service Provider. Any discussion on that introduction? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed, that carries. Next, we have pursuant to notice, Councilmember Fry moves to introduce the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to the zoning code for first reading and referral to the Zoning and Planning Committee, adding provisions related to the regulation of short-term rentals. Any discussion on that introduction? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed, that carries. Next, we have pursuant to notice, Councilmember Gordon and Bender introduce the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to licenses and business regulations, tobacco dealers, for first reading and referral to the Health, Environment, Community Engagement Committee, amending regulations relating to the sale of tobacco. Any discussion on that introduction? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed, that carries. Under resolutions, we have a resolution declaring the first day of July Somali American Day in the city of Minneapolis. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed, that carries. We have a passage of a resolution recognizing August 11th, 2017 as National 811 Day. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed, that carries. We have a passage of a resolution celebrating the 140th anniversary of the Parish of Our Lady of Lourdes. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed, that carries. Under unfinished, I have a motion in front of you to move to return the item, the request by Officer Michael Griffin for reimbursement of criminal defense fees. It's a motion to return this item to the City Attorney's Office for additional information and review of other cases where the city has reimbursed officials or employees for criminal defense costs and to report back to the Ways and Means Committee within 60 days. The report back should include a discussion of options available for full, partial, or no reimbursement of Officer Griffin's fees. Is there a second on that? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Any announcements? Seeing no announcements, a motion to adjourn would be in order, and it's a motion to adjourn to the next meeting of June 30th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries.